Lisa Schnebly Heidinger is celebrating Arizona with lots of interesting people, so you'll hear wonderful voices with new stories. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z, and we're off.
Welcome, everyone, or welcome back to Celebrating Arizona. And if you have ever thought, gee, Lisa Schnebly Heidinger, considering you lost 4 family members in 16 months, you do really well. Well, today you're going to find out why. Dr. Cynthia is our guest. And that's who you are to me. You are actually Dr. Cynthia Stahura, right?
Yes. Yep, that is
But
me.
for my purposes, you're Dr. Cynthia. She is why I'm okay. And over the course of the time that we have been talking, we have talked about all kinds of things, and act surprised, that's included Arizona. So we are here to talk less about me and more about Arizona today. And so start where your Arizona started. I know you're a Texas girl.
Absolutely.
And tell me a little bit about that and how you got here.
Well, I knew from a young age that I wanted to enter into the mental health field. And so I was working, while I was going to school, I was working for the downtown YMCA in Austin, Texas, and it was a corporate runners club. So I had the opportunity to meet many wonderful people, and among those, I met a few therapists. And so I would show up to work early and walk the trail with them and talk to them about their jobs. And so one of the questions I asked is, where's a good place to be if you want to enter into mental health? And considering that I hate cold weather, this was one of the best places to be. So, I decided to take the leap. I was later working in IT when I could afford to come here and supporting me and my daughter, and moved here. And I decided I was going to pursue my degree and work in the mental health field, or I was going to die trying. So I was pretty determined that that's what I was going to do. So I moved here in 97 and have lived here since, and I absolutely love it. And Sedona was just a real treat. It was not what I expected. Whenever you look at Phoenix, you think of desert and heat, but I didn't know that there was this beautiful gem of a place that I would fall in love with.
Oh, okay. And yet do you live both places, or are you mostly the valley?
I am absolutely living in, yeah, I live in Sun City.
Okay. So you don't live in Sedona, but you get to be in Sedona.
Yes, I try to go there whenever I can, because it's just one of my favorite places. Since I've come here, it's been one of my favorite places. So, and I may not be the person that knows every landmark or, every single trail. There's so many wonderful hiking trails there. But for me, it's just the feeling of being there. It's just the beautiful colors, it's the light, the calm feeling. It's just one of those places where you can really just kind of breathe differently, you know?
Interesting. And so when you're up there, where do you tend to gravitate to be?
Well, so I'm more of a wanderer than a planner. I think that Sedona is just one of those places that you can pick up and go, and you don't have to have a rigid plan and have to go here and need to go there. You can just go there. I love to go there and walk down the main street and pop into all the little shops, and absolutely cannot pass up the fudge place because that is terrific. Can't pass that up. And then, just I love browsing the galleries. And, I really enjoyed Tlaquepaque and being able to walk around and wander through there. And sometimes, you go there on a Saturday and you hear these wonderful musicians, and, it's just such a lovely atmosphere.
Yeah, it is. Is there some
Yeah.
place that I tend to always want to go back to Shorebird, Coffee Pot. I have a few where I just go back. Do you have a few where you just go back?
It's really about just kind of going there and wandering around, and it just brings back these wonderful memories. You know, when my mom was alive, she wasn't one for traveling at all. And so she took the trip to come and visit me. And we took her up to Sedona, and she just lit up. I mean, she fell in love with it. She loved
Oh,
it so much. We went to Tlaquepaque, and she bought a couple beautiful pictures of Sedona and hung them in her kitchen. And she raved about Sedona to all of her friends. I think she talked about Sedona much more than she talked about Phoenix and maybe even visiting me.
I mean, I don't love that, but I love that.
Yeah.
That's how gratifying that she got it,
I
that
know,
she
I
understood what you
know.
were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And so that was in like 2000. So this was before all of us were using our phones for our cameras, right? So, she snapped a bunch of really cute pictures. And there was one funny moment when we were there because there was a kite that looked like a bird that was flying around. And she was an intelligent woman, but just one of those silly moments where she looked up and she was like, how is that bird staying in one place? So it became sort of a joke where like, it's a
Oh,
kite. And so she snapped a picture. And so she sent me the pictures. And then she had a little, call out where she wrote, how is this bird staying in one place?
oh, fun. I hope you have that
Yeah.
somewhere in your house now.
Oh, I
You still
do.
have
I
it?
have it right in my living room.
How gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then while we're talking about good memories in Sedona, the first time we spoke, you said you got married there.
Yes,
Can you
I
say a little bit
did.
more about that?
Absolutely. So it was a very simple, you know, which is very much us, just me and my sweetheart Pete. And, it adds another layer of meaning to me, to have that memory of us being there. And it was our fifth year being together. So it was,
Whoa.
September 12th is our anniversary. And so we wanted to be married on our anniversary day. So we just ran up there and got married. And, that's another part of why it holds a special meaning to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think one of my beliefs is that we all have places and it's like decoupage. You can just add layers and layers and layers and layers. And so each
Yeah.
time you come to Sedona or Jerome or whatever, there are more layers, and there's always room for more layers. And I maybe already said this to you, and I'm feeling like I only just had the thought, but we both got married in Sedona,
Oh,
and we
wow. I
were
didn't
married down by
realize
the creek at
that.
Los. I don't know
Oh.
that I ever mentioned it. The Los Abrigados and Tlaquepaque are built on where Sedona and T.C. Schnebly lived. And
Oh.
so Tom and I got married there by the creek, partly because my dad, good old Larry, remembered when grandma used to wash her laundry under those same huge trees that are still there. And so to get married where she had been and have daddy walk me over the little bridge to Tom and everything was pretty cool. And again, a layer.
Wow. How
And
special.
it was.
Oh,
And
wonderful. Wow, that is
but
terrific.
speaking of that, the best Arizonans are generally from somewhere else. I don't think being born here buys you anything. I think coming here is what makes you in Arizona. And you chose it very specifically and then made it work.
Yeah. And, I don't regret it one bit. I absolutely love it here, and I know whenever I had to do my residency, I did my residency in Texas, and the entire time there, I was like, it's nice to be in Texas because there's some of my family here, but I'm ready to go back home. I was ready to be done with the crazy
Oh.
weather, the hail, looking at the clouds to see if one of them was going to turn into a tornado. I was
Ooh.
done with that.
Wow. Yeah, that wouldn't take me long either to be done with.
Yeah.
Tornado.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a tornado or near a
Yeah,
tornado?
actually, whenever I was very young, so I don't remember a whole lot about it because I was very young. I just remember being told to get into the bathtub, and we had mattresses over us. And then I remember our barbecue pit ended up many, many hundreds of yards away from where we lived. So, yeah,
So this is better.
this is way
Arizona is
better.
less histrionic weather-wise.
Exactly. Absolutely, it is. And there's just so much diversity here, in so many different ways. As far as the landscape goes, tons of diversity there. And, in the wonderful people who live here.
You know what? We're going to take a quick break, so hold that thought, and we're going to come back and talk more about the diversity.
Okay.
The Arizona 250 Traveling Museum is literally history on the move and through all 15 of our state's counties. Carrying our copy of the Liberty Bell, each state got one, but a lot more along. This specially adapted semi-truck lets residents take part in hands-on learning experiences, telling Arizona's story in the role of our nation, celebrating the Big 250 this year. All right, so diversity. Diversity's people, diversity's places. Tell me some of the kinds of diversity that you like about Arizona.
Well, there are many restaurants that honor so many different subcultures here, which I think is terrific and is just a wonderful experience. There are areas in which you can get, certain types of cuisine that you would get, normally in not normally here. It's not something that you would expect that you would get here. I know that I've had Mediterranean cuisine, and I've been to restaurants that were run by people who are from Croatia, and just the list goes on and on. So, and of course, I'm a huge fan of the Mexican culture, I guess, with having Mexican Americans in my family. I really appreciate that. And I have to say
Oh,
that Mexican food is my absolute favorite cuisine. But here, you can get a little bit of somehow they brought Tex-Mex here. We have we have Mexican food that is originated from Albuquerque, and just more of the traditional Mexican food as well. So it's really terrific.
I was
So
just wondering if there's a Tex-Mex versus Arizona Mex war being fought inside, or there's plenty of meals and you can have either one anytime you want. You don't have to pick
I
one over the other.
right, I wouldn't pick one over the other. It's just having the opportunity to have something a little bit different.
That does make sense. And what about? I like the idea of so. In other words, there's a certain international cuisine. I mean, Croatia. You're right. We don't think, oh, Arizona, Croatian food, and yet that makes sense. Um, let's see. And then people wise, the three braids coming in originally were indigenous, Mexican, and then Mormon-ish, minors, various, like European extractions, I suppose. Did you grow up in a white Baptist Texas stereotype or not?
Not so much. I would say that, at least 50% of the population was, and still is Mexican American. And so, it
Oh,
was a very nice blend there. A lot of little German towns around as well. But, so there was quite a bit of diversity in Central Texas where I came from. So,
see, that's my ignorance.
and that was just a wonderful experience. Oh,
Like people think
yeah, well,
Arizona
it's
is all
easy.
golf and saguaros
Right, yeah.
until they get here.
I know exactly. They really do. They never, there's just not that many people, who haven't traveled here that are aware of the beauty of places like Flagstaff and Sedona, and it's just such a
Yeah.
unique state that way.
Now, one time I made a little thing for you for places people could go near the big cities. Have you been to a lot of places near most big cities?
I haven't as of late. I've spent more time um, at home lately. I think I may have over adapted to COVID, but actually, I
Oh,
also ended up with a new hobby that I never saw myself getting into, and that's caring for the feral lovebirds. So that keeps me at home a little bit more and enjoying the beautiful, darling little birds that visit our aviary every day. We get about 50 to 90 birds that visit our aviary. And
oh my God. Now, say more about that. Tell me what an aviary, it's where birds are, but when you say that, what does that look like? What does that mean?
it probably would help to give you a little background. So we started out with just a quail block, and I enjoyed feeding the quails. And then next thing you know, so you have the other birds that come around. Then these beautiful little green parrots arrived, and I was amazed to even see this. So from there, I bought a few feeders and started feeding them. And I noticed that they weren't able to get much of the food because the bigger birds would kind of bully them out of the way. So
Hmm.
then I had a platform feeder built with 2 by 2 mesh so that only the lovebirds could get in and not the bully birds. And so that worked until the pigeons learned how to tip the feeder over by shaking it. So then my
Oh.
I know. So then my wonderful husband, um, he helped me build this aviary outside, and it's a large, well, it's I think it's 6 by 10 wooden structure, and on the outside is the 2 by 2 mesh, so I'm still able to keep out the bully birds and the predator birds and allow the lovebirds to come in safely, eat their food, and then fly back to wherever they sleep.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
gosh.
know. It's
So it's an
become a real
actual
thing.
hostel sanctuary safe
Yes.
place.
Yeah.
Oh, how nice.
I probably should have sent you the link to. I created this little YouTube video. It's extremely amateur, I'll say, because it's not my talent, but I did that to show my husband's family, who's from Indiana, what we were talking about when we talked about the aviary. And it's just great to see just all these wonderful little birds. And, we were amazed to get as many as we did. It started out with, 10, 12, 30. I remember being excited about seeing 30 birds in there. And now it's like 50. And then once,
Wow.
We have the juveniles come in. You get about 90 of them. So
Oh
quite a few
my
flocks that visit.
gosh. Sedona used to have a lovebird. She was 15 when she got it. Italo, named for a writer, of course. And he was going to live with her, but he never did. He lived with us. So he would spend his days on our patio, and
Oh,
that brought a lot of lovebirds. And I was amazed at some of the coloring. Italo himself was a mottled cream to dove gray to darker gray. Pretty bird with a
oh,
little apricot nose. But some came with deep blue wings and some were
yes,
white. Do you get just all
yes.
kinds that we most of us don't think about?
All kinds, yeah. And we're surprised to see the different color variations as well. Um, Last year we had a few Lutino, the yellow ones that come. We haven't seen
I
them
haven't seen
around as
yellow.
much. And there's some that have the traditional rosy face, the green color, but
Mm-hmm.
they're like patches of yellow in them. There's light blue, there's turquoise. They're just
Whoa.
they're just wonderful to see, and they just all have so much personality.
I love that you do that.
Yeah, it's
That's
wonderful.
so
I was out there
nice.
today and I was a little late, and they sit outside the tree and they gripe at me like, "Get out of my aviary!" Like, hold on, I'm
Really?
putting more food. Yeah,
Hey, I'm the help. You need me.
yes, I know. Don't you see what I'm
That's
doing?
that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about some of the things you have helped me with and helped me understand. Do you mind if we take a break and come back to that? An AZ 250 passport stop is the Pioneer Living History Museum, Arizona buildings from 1863 to 1912, brought together north of Phoenix at Pioneer Road, west of I 17. These include the original Opera House from Prescott, a reconstruction of the Frederick and Hill Tin Shop, which outfitted Pioneer homes beginning in the 1880s. Shop the Mercantile with old-fashioned candy sticks, cold soda, and traditional quality candles and soaps. You have been such a source of amazing, important information for me. And a lot of that is because, psychology is, I guess, the mind, but you know a bucket about the brain as well. You have, how does that work? Is that separate degrees?
Well, so we think about the brain as being the organ that is sort of like our CPU, and we think about the mind as being more abstract, as in, being, in your own mind. It's more encompasses the experiences that you get from the way your neurons fire.
Okay. And a lot of what you've told me has been incredibly helpful. And one of the first things was 5 deep breaths. Do you mind just going over that? Because I doubt I'm the only person out here who gets really caught up in things and has a hard time unhooking. So if you would just share that.
Absolutely. So, it takes me back to residency. So, I did so many different things while I was on residency. I did a neuropsych rotation, and I did long term care. And so, with the individuals who are in long term care, they would have quite a few of them had breathing problems. And so their main problem was they would, take a deep breath. Someone would say, take a deep breath. So they'd take a good breath in and then not much of a breath out. So I learned to, teach people that you really want to emphasize the breath out. And so whenever you're breathing out, it is a very good nervous system regulator because when we're breathing out, it presses against the diaphragm, which presses against our vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve. It's the longest nerve in our body, and it sends the message to the brain that it's okay, we can relax. So the vagus nerve is highly tied into our parasympathetic nervous system, so the rest and digest part of it.
Okay. So the 5 deep breaths in through my nose and out through the mouth is giving the vagus nerve time to get that everything's okay message and
Yes.
help me believe it.
Yes, yeah, because it's a bi-directional nerve. So it is not only receiving information from the brain, but it's also sending information to the brain about how we're doing. So,
Okay. And that's why that's so
yeah,
helpful.
absolutely.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there one thing that you feel like, ooh, if we could all remember that, we would all do so much better?
Oh, yes. Well, so just understanding that, our emotional brain is part of our animal brain, and we are animals first. We tend to forget that, but it's true. And so the information that's transmitted from the emotional brain is super fast. It is ridiculously fast. It's like 4 nanoseconds. And so our logical brain, which came along a lot later, the left prefrontal cortex specifically, for right-handers anyways, is the area where we are able to make good decisions and judgments and things like that. Well, whenever we get into emotional place, our emotions can hijack the entire brain. So, and we're not able to think clearly. We're not able to articulate ourselves very well. We're not able to retain things that, we're trying to attend to. And that's because it's not an essential part for us. It's not essential for our survival. And the goal of our brain
Mm.
is survival. The number one goal is survival. So it tends to dampen down whenever we're under stress. So the best thing to do is to slow down. You've got to slow down enough to allow your thinking brain to be able to engage. And so you want to try to relax yourself to get there. And that's why the good 5 deep breaths is good, and being just very mindful. When I say mindful, it's just being aware of your thoughts without judging them. And so at that point, what's good to do is just to stop and go, okay, what's the story my mind is telling me? And you're asking 2 questions. Is it true? And when I say it's true, is it true? Is it a fact? Is it something that could stand up in a court of law? And so instead of it being, people believe their thoughts to be facts. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why I kind of add that in there to make sure that it's not your truth, it has to be factual. So is it true? And is it worth it? Like, is it worth it to stress over whatever the thing that is upsetting us? So that can work for someone who is dealing with anxious thoughts or depressive thoughts. And I think that alone can help a person in being able to regulate their emotions a bit more. And if you want to take it a step further, you introduce some self compassion. So, as you are mindful in those thoughts and saying, what is my mind telling me? You don't want to get into judgment and let the self critic take over. You want to get in a place where you have compassion, because that allows you to stay in the left prefrontal cortex and have that logic center stay online. And when we're kinder to ourselves, we function better in every kind of way. So the critic, if you think it's helping you, it's not.
God, I love that. My mom used to talk about Mrs. Mellow and Mrs. Mean in our brains, and how we have to let Mrs. Mellow win and not Mrs. Mean. And I didn't really have a Mrs. Mellow. I just had the Mrs. Mean, and I thought of the idea that each generation betters the one before it. Because when Sedona was little, I told her about Mrs. Mellow and Mrs. Mean, and she said, "Oh, my Mrs. Mean killed my Mrs. Mellow and wears her skull as a hat." And I thought, oh my gosh. But that's how important what you're saying is, that if we can't practice self-compassion, we're just setting ourselves back and making our lives harder and not getting anything good out of it, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. And so each time you entertain that self critic, the inner critic part of us, which everybody has, every time those neurons fire, they strengthen. You really want to move it over into self compassion and forge new neural networks and strengthen those, because the brain is a path of least resistance type deal, so it's going to jump over to the stronger network, and that's really where you want it to be.
Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
So much for that.
My pleasure.
I don't know where I'd be without you, but it wouldn't be right here. I know that.
Well, I am grateful to know you.
Oh, Dr. Cynthia, always such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blackney. And I'm Dana Cooper.